M is for Mason.
G is for Graham.
B for Thatcher.
This is the Mgb Wrestling Podcast, the podcast with PG-rated material accessible to wrestling fans of all ages.
My name is Graham Bagshaw, and my co-host and creator of this podcast is proof that wrestling fans live with their parents. My 10-year-old son, Mason. So, Mason, how did those baseball tryouts go that we talked about last week?
It was good. So first we did running. I was pretty fast, yeah.
You were in like the top 20%. There was one kid who was lightning. In fact, on his shirt it said like "I'm lightning fast" or something. But yeah, besides that, I thought you did good at that as well.
Yeah, and I did good on the grounders, pop-ups, and then pitching. I did 2-3 good strikes, and batting. I hit one solid one, and then I tipped 2.
Yeah, and I say, I jokingly asked you, I was like, so how many swings had you taken in the last year? And of course the answer was 0, because you didn't go out on the back lawn like you were supposed to. And same with pitches, you've not really had a chance to pitch, and all those things considered, I thought you did really good. In our first match, scheduled for
1 fall,
we have this week in wrestling news. So, all over Twitter this week, obviously Daniel Bryan returning to SmackDown. No, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that much later. It was announced this week that the Dudley Boys, well, they're going to be in the Hall of Fame, and it was announced this week that Edge and Christian were going to be the people who induct them. I think those two, along with the Hardy Boys, are sort of synonymous with the tag teams. It's certainly the group that I think of when I think of the best tag teams. Any particular Dudley Boy moments, Mason?
I always like when Bubba Ray, he pushes Devon and he said, go get the tables.
And I thought that was one of my favourite things, and I didn't think you were going to get to see that, and I was really glad when they actually came back, because you did actually have a Dudley Boys t-shirt, and that was before you'd even seen them, because it was like a classic wrestling thing. So I was glad you got to see those. Anything particular about Edge and Christian, or any of the other groups? Who's your favourite out of those three, I guess?
Hardys.
And that's probably mine as well. I like the Hardys, but it's so close.
Yes.
Like I said, I love that thing with the Dudleys. I love them when they stick their tongue out and they do the dive from the top rope. They got so many good things. I think it shows you how good that group is when Edge and Christian are my third favourite group from those three. Yeah. Whereas if I was to put those into the modern era, they would probably be right up there at the top.
Well, I also think that I'm not being fair to the Edge and Christian because I haven't seen them as much as the Hardys and Dudleys.
And I would say we've only been watching wrestling again. Well, Mason's been watching it for 2 years. I'm coming back after kind of a long gap. So Edge and Christian was when I first started wrestling when I moved to America. So yeah, I'm a lot more familiar with those guys. But yeah, I think he came back at a good time. Hardy Boys came back at WrestleMania last year. Dudley's came back for one more go. So yeah, probably haven't seen as much of those. In our second match, we have the best moments from Raw, and that's from Dallas, Texas. Mason, you want to start us off? There were some good moments in this one. Do you want to talk about your top 3?
Well, number 3 was when the U.S. Marshals arrested Roman Reigns because before he got suspended for yelling at Vince McMahon, I think, probably.
He had a bit of a beef with him. He went into the back and said, I want to talk to you. He wasn't happy that Brock Lesnar wasn't there. Pretty much what everyone in the WWE audience was thinking at the same time. Where's Brock? Why is he never there? He's supposed to be the champion, and he's never there. But yeah,
So he came in and interrupted Kurt Angle. He forced Kurt Angle to go in the back, talk to whoever he needed to talk to get Brock in the ring. And the U.S. Marshals came out, arrested Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns threw them out the ring with handcuffs on. Brock Lesnar came out. Roman Reigns tried to get a steel chair, but yeah, Brock Lesnar, he can definitely beat Roman Reigns with handcuffs on.
Yeah, I would say the three U.S. Marshals came out, and then he was more objectionable to the fact that he put his hand on him and he was trying to escort him out of the ring. Like, I don't think it was any big deal, but obviously Roman was a little bit upset. But yeah, once he had his handcuffs on, he's not going to be able to beat Brock Lesnar. Brock took it really seriously. There was suplex after suplex, there was hits, there was chair hits, there was an F5. It had everything in there.
Yeah, and also, after that, the ref, he yanked the handcuffs off Roman Reigns. I don't know how Roman Reigns could not. The ref just ripped the handcuffs right off his hands. And
so you're saying the ref's stronger than Roman Reigns?
No, I'm saying that he faked that a lot. Those are the weakest handcuffs. Like, when we went to a party, they gave us fake handcuffs, and they broke instantly.
It looked a little tougher than the ones that you
Yes.
had at your party,
They were
but
plastic.
sure. And I actually said as we were watching it, I was like, watch it, this. He's going to pull his hands apart and he's going to break the handcuffs. And he didn't do that. And the part that we probably haven't mentioned is that it was a big beating. He got on a stretcher. The medics came out and helped him. And then actually came out for like a third time, tipped the whole stretcher over. So there was a lot that was going on in that. Surprisingly, that was only the second moment from the top 10 moments that WWE released. Okay, Mason, what about your second moment?
When, in the Ultimate Deletion match, Jeff Hardy jumps out of the boat, and he threw, it looked like a blown-up world,
Globe.
and he threw it into, at Bray Wyatt, and then he started singing, he's got the whole wide world in his hands.
Now, I actually watched that again. It wasn't Jeff Hardy that threw it at him. I don't know who it was. It was an older guy who threw it to him, but then Jeff Hardy appeared beside him and did exactly what you said. So I'm not sure if that's their dad or something. I'm not sure if it's like a whole family thing. I know we saw pictures on the compound where he had his family around him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not quite sure about that one. Anything else you want to add about that event? The Ultimate Deletion?
Oh, well, his house is absolutely huge. Well, obviously it's Carolina, and that's a lot cheaper, but still.
Yeah, they've probably earned a lot of money in their time, but yeah, the reason I'm staying fairly quiet on this, for me, it was the same thing I saw when it was on TNA or Impact Wrestling, and I didn't like it then, actually, and I wasn't that impressed with it this time either, but I'm definitely in the minority, so I'm going to let you take the stage if there's anything else you want to add about that.
No, not really.
Okay. All right, and your number one moment then?
My number one moment was when Cena, he's calling out Undertaker, and Kane came out, and he's like, Cena's asking him, is it yes or is it no? And then Kane just choke slams him and no response.
Now, you called one last week when you said on the Nova Pro event, you called out something that was going to happen. And I called out this one. I said, watch him. He's just going to choke slam him. And that's exactly what happened. Now, we'd asked the crowd, is this what you want to see? And of course, they said yes. And it was like, just do something. And that was sort of the chant as well. And yeah, Kane came out. Obviously, that's supposed to be Undertaker's brother. And they announced also that's going to be one of the matches for next week. So that could well feature within our top 3 moments for next week. Mm-hmm. What I should have added, Mason, though, is you did pick the number one moment. The Jeff Hardy moment right at the end, that was listed as their number one moment. And Kane coming out was only 4. I thought that might have been a little higher, actually. So you actually did pretty good. You had 1, 2, and 4. So that was your top 3. I thought that was pretty good. So my top 3, I started off with number 3 of The Miz. He came out, cut his promo, and showed a big copy of the WrestleMania magazine. I couldn't count how many stars were on there, but it looked like there was at least 15 to 20 wrestlers. And he wasn't one of them. So he was unhappy that he was being ignored again. And then, of course, he turned it onto the WWE and how no one ever looks at him and things like that. I thought it was a cool little segment. And I did wonder afterwards, was that deliberate? Did they ask WWE, look, don't put me on the magazine so I can use it as one of my promos later? Or did they just overlook him? And if they overlooked him, I think that is kind of a big insult to him. I'm actually kind of looking forward for that match with him, Seth Rollins, and The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship. I think that's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think they overlooked him. I thought he was just shopping around, and then he found the WrestleMania magazine, and he was like, oh, am I on that? Oh, that would be a good promo.
Yeah, anyway, I thought that was kind of strange. My second moment was Alexa Bliss, following up from what happened with Nia Jax last week when they caught her backstage saying that basically she'd been manipulating her the whole time. And then she came onto the stage, she's really apologetic, and she must be afraid that Nia Jax is going to come out. And she just comes out, I'm sorry I did this, sorry. And then she's like, I'm really sorry. Dramatic pause. I didn't say the truth earlier. And goes straight back into a heel moment, and the crowd immediately boo. I love Alexa as a heel. I think she's really good. I really enjoyed that moment. And the match afterwards, I wasn't as interested. Well, it wasn't a match, but Nia came out, tried to catch Alexa. Mickie James took a big hit into the side of the ring to protect her a little bit. But I like the promo. That was my second moment.
Yeah, I really like that too. She's like, yeah, at the start, somewhere, I think it was a few months ago, she was reading the dictionary with Mickie James and something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she said Mickie James is something like a excuse of a woman or something.
They weren't being very nice to her, that's for sure. All right, and my number one moment is one that you already picked as well. Brock Lesnar actually being there. From everything we'd heard, that he'd already met his quota for his contract, that he didn't have to be there anymore. And they said he's going to be there definitely. And I was like, he's not going to be there at all. And I was genuinely shocked that he was there. I did not expect that. And yeah, I really liked that. So that was mine. None of my moments made it into the top 10 even, except for the last one, which was number 2. And I'm going to read the top 5. But before we do that, we didn't actually watch we don't watch the episodes live. We actually watch it on Hulu the day after. And it gives like an hour and 40 minutes. It cuts out all the commercials. And I didn't realize it cut some big things out. So we actually watched the Ultimate Deletion, because we actually watched it on YouTube first, because I know it was something that you wanted to watch. That wasn't actually featured on Hulu. So actually, when you look at the top 10, only 5 of the moments that we actually watched were in the top 10. 5 of the moments they didn't show were actually featured on Hulu. So I'm going to read the whole top 10 this time, because there's some things that we missed and you might have not even realized about. So first of all, it started off with Absolution defeats Bayley and Sasha. Sorry, that was the 5th moment. That wasn't even featured on ours, right?
No.
Okay, 4th moment. Kane, when he came into the ring, is it yes or no? And you picked that one. Number 3 was from the Ultimate Deletion. And this actually was one of my favourite moments in this. When he's looking out onto the side of the ring and he goes, chair of wheels, mower of lawn. And he's trying to decide, like, should I get the wheelchair? Should I get the drive-on lawnmower? So that was number 3. Roman fights back after being arrested. We saw that one. And then the number 1 moment overall was the Ultimate Deletion ending. So if you only watched on Hulu, you actually missed some important moments there. 5, 3, and 1 were actually not featured on Hulu. A lot of people are very upset with Hulu. Hulu actually released on Twitter. It's not their fault. They don't decide what matches they show. WWE cuts the content down for them, and then they just release it. Oh. So anyway, also from the top 10, Bray Wyatt arriving for the Ultimate Deletion was listed as number 10. So we wouldn't have had a chance for that. And number 9 was the Shelton Benjamin tag team match, which was another one we didn't see. So yeah, I was kind of surprised. I thought we were seeing almost everything. And actually on this specific week, we would have missed a lot if we hadn't gone and watched the Ultimate Deletion on YouTube. In our 3rd match, this is Are You Smarter Than a 4th Grader? Now, we're going to have a slight twist on this week. Rather than me produce the quizzes all the time, Mason, really, you're the creator of this podcast. We thought it'd be fun for you to actually create a quiz for me to do. So we already talked about the fact that Daniel Bryan returned to SmackDown this week. So I believe you put together a quiz for me to actually do based on Daniel Bryan. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, before we start, I want to remind people, we've only been watching wrestling again for 2 years. Daniel Bryan came back after 2 years. I'm not even sure if you've seen a Daniel Bryan wrestling match since you've been watching wrestling. Not from one that's not from an old match.
Well, I saw WrestleMania 28. He got
correct. That's an old match. Correct. So I just want to remind people then that I didn't actually see Daniel Bryan's career except for highlights, just like you did. So I'm hoping that you picked some nice questions to give me a chance on this one. So.
Well, you did read his autobiography.
That is true. We did read his autobiography just before Christmas, so I'm hoping that that's going to be enough. But all right, go ahead. I don't know how many questions you prepared or anything, so bring it on.
I prepared 6 questions.
Okay.
Okay, who is Daniel Bryan's wife?
Oh, that's Brie Bella.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so number 2, where was Daniel Bryan born? I thought you should know
I
this.
should know it. Well, I can tell you the state. It's definitely Washington State.
Yep.
I can't remember the name of the city. Oh, is it Aberdeen?
Yes, Aberdeen, Washington.
Because we have Aberdeen, Maryland, which is where Cal Ripken's from. So I got a little bit lucky on that one.
Okay, this is a multiple choice one.
Okay. Who
is Daniel Bryan's daughter's first name? A, Grace, B, Birdie, C, Nikki, or D, Bree?
Now, I got lucky on this one because I actually listened to, I don't know if you've listened to it yet, the Daniel Bryan podcast on Sam Roberts.
Yes.
And they actually talked about posting on Instagram. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have known that it was Birdie. But it's definitely Birdie.
It is. Okay. How many followers does Daniel Bryan have? A, 4.57 million. B, 5.07 million. C, 4.39 million. Or D, 3.12.
Oh, gosh. Now, I can narrow it down to a couple, because we had a round about how many followers, who were the top 10 followers on Twitter recently for you. And I cut the ceiling off, I think it was like 3.5 was the top 10. So it's definitely not 3.12, because I had to be very careful in saying that I couldn't say current wrestler, because he was listed on the roster. I had to say who was listed on the roster. He was like 9th, something like that, so it's like probably just a little over 4. Can you give me the 4 numbers again? It's not 5 point something. I think that's too high.
4.57 and 4.39.
Oh, they're very close together as well. All right, there's no way I can know. 4.39.
Yes.
Oof, okay. I knew he was on the lower end. I think he was 9th on that list.
Okay, number 5. What historic event happened on April 6th, 2014? WrestleMania 30.
April 6th.
2014 WrestleMania 30.
Oh, that must have been when he became WWE champion for the first time.
No, that's not actually the right
Oh, it's not? Oh,
yes.
What? I don't know then.
He wrestled in 2 WrestleMania matches.
Oh, but was one of them the...
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. So I got half a point for that. You got to be very specific on that one. But that was his first championship. I remember reading that in the book.
Okay, this question is extra point.
Extra credit?
Extra credit. Name Daniel Bryan's 4 ring names. Oh, I have the.
I can give you one of them. I can definitely give you one of them. One of them is his real name. I think he wrestled under Bryan Danielson.
Yes, 1.
Obviously Daniel Bryan.
2.
He was part of Team Hell No, but I don't know.
No, that's not.
So it's just
Daniel
singles.
Bryan. Yes.
So it's just as a single. I think I can honestly say I don't know any other ones. I know he came in as like a pretend wrestler, not like a real. So it might be one of those. No, I don't know any of the other ones.
There was American Dragon and Daniel Wyatt.
Oh, of course, because he was part of the Wyatt family.
Yes.
Okay, so I should have got that one. American Dragon, I do remember actually. That
Yes.
was part of the book, and I had totally forgotten that one. So I got a little bit of extra credit.
7.5 points.
Out of
10.
So 75%. So that's a C. So I guess I passed then. So I can pretty happy with that one. I can take that. In our 4th match, we have our best moments from SmackDown. So Mason, do you want to start us off with your 3rd moment?
So number 3 was when Jinder pushes Sunil Sin into Randy Orton and then Jinder rolls out the ring and Sunil Sin gets a beating.
And then also those other 2 squared off against each other in the ring. There was an attempted RKO, there was an attempted glorious DDT, and then there was a bit of a standoff. They're also looking at each other. I actually was impressed with that. They've been on the screen a lot recently, but I still think it works. So that's another match I think will actually be a good one.
Yes.
All 3 of those can appear at WrestleMania. Okay, number 2.
Natalie gave Charlotte a superplex off the top rope. Then Carmella came in with her Money in the Bank. She wanted to cash it in. She got kicked in the head by Charlotte. And then she rolled Charlotte up and won the match.
And actually, the ref never got the match started in time. So we don't actually... So it looks like she gets to keep her Money in the Bank. She didn't waste it like Baron Corbin did, which is probably lucky for her because, she wouldn't have done it. So, kind of an interesting one on that one.
And the thing is, I don't understand what would happen if... So, Carmella cashed in her Money in the Bank. It's a triple threat match. Then Natty wins. Would she get the title? Would she not? But...
Well, I think Carmella was still... That was a totally separate match. So, Natalia could still win that match against Charlotte Flair. 1, 2, 3, and then she could get out of the way, and then Carmella could just lie on her and try and pin her 1, 2, 3 as well. So I think they're consecutive matches.
Oh.
But no, I agree, it's kind of a weird one. Normally it's at the completion of a match, when somebody's absolutely exhausted. I just pinned them 1, 2, 3, and that's when they normally come out with Money in the Bank. So I've never seen that one when they come in the middle of a match.
Well, but you did say Roman and Brock Lesnar were fighting and Seth Rollins came out.
That's true. Actually, I'd forgotten about that one. So that turned into a triple threat match. So I guess that would have been kind of interesting then. Yeah,
but it's not that bad. It's not confusing because Seth Rollins won.
It wasn't for that one, but you're right. No, I think you're right, actually, then. So if she had cashed it in, Natalia would have won that match, and therefore, on the triple threat rules, she would have been the winner. Now, I think the only difference is, though, that was a non-title match between Natalia and Charlotte.
Yes.
But Carmella has a title match guarantee. So, I agree. That is kind of a confusing one, which is probably why they didn't talk about it on the episode, because it would have taken way too long to explain. All right, your number 1 moment.
Number 1, when Jimmy versing Luke Harper in the Bludgeon Brothers. Jimmy drop toe holds Harper onto the apron screen and takes a title out. The drop toe holds, it looks like they put their hands and then they smack their hands down, and their face is near the ground, so it looks like and you can hear the sound.
Yeah.
But this one, I don't know how you push a title out of the apron screen.
I don't know. I don't know that either. Now, let me tell you, you did get some moments from this one. So, the Jinder moment was number 6. The Carmella moment was number 4. And actually, the Usos moment was number 8. Now, I'm going to go to my moments, and I know you're not going to let me do this. I hated SmackDown last week. I only found one moment that I liked. So I said, can I get 5 moments this week then to make up for it? And you didn't like that idea either. I thought it was a great SmackDown. I knew it was going to be good anyway because of the Daniel Bryan part. And I'd heard the rest of it wasn't that good. And I actually disagree. I thought it was great. I had the Usos as well, but I specifically liked the promo at the start again. I think those guys are so good on the mic. That would have been my 5th moment, which you're not allowing. Jinder, Bobby, and Randy, that would have been my 4th moment. Carmelo would have been my 3rd moment, so I wouldn't have done too bad on this. Now, my 2nd moment was the intro, the start of the whole show. Daniel Bryan showed you his retirement again, and then him coming talking about how he got back into the ring.
Yeah, well, it was already announced on Twitter, so it's not.
It was,
like
but
it's
not
a big
everybody.
Surprise.
It was, but not a surprise at all. I knew it was going to be near the top, and I said that before we start. Daniel Bryan's probably going to get the top 3 moments, but people who were out of that audience, when they bought their tickets, they didn't know that was going to happen. If they'd been working all day and they got there, they might not have heard that news. So I thought that was it would have been really cool for those people. But yeah, we sort of knew ahead of time. So that was my number 2 moment. My number 1 moment was Sammy and Kevin coming into the ring. They apologized for being late because they didn't realize Daniel was going to be there, and it was "you're fired." And then we got to see them retaliating and things like that. But I just liked the look on their faces, and it was great to see Daniel Bryan there again, doing some yes kicks, doing a few moves, and yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I know everybody watched this anyway, so. I
like that Daniel Bryan came back. I just didn't really like either of those things. I don't know what happened.
That's fine. Now, I might have done the best of anyone ever on this competition, actually. So the Carmelo moment was 4. I picked it 3. The intro with Daniel Bryan retirement being shown was actually the 3rd best moment. I picked it as 2. And Sammy and Kevin being fired was the 2nd best moment, and I picked it as my number 1. And as it was happening, I was like, they just put 2 pieces together. And they did. They did the end of that segment as their number 1 moment, where they actually did start to beat up Daniel Bryan, and they put him on a stretcher. So I'm going to guess then, if Shane McMahon's on a stretcher from last week, Daniel Bryan's on a stretcher this week, there's your tag team match. Daniel and Shane versus Kevin and Sammy. What do you think?
Perfect.
It makes sense. I think that's the only way that can possibly go. So, in our 5th match, we have Tweet of the Week, and not surprisingly, I went with Daniel Bryan, which is why I didn't put it in my section 1. At WWE Daniel Bryan, it says, saying goodbye to the ring was one of the hardest moments of my life, but thanks to the amazing people supporting me, I was able to keep fighting for my dream. This moment feels surreal, and I'm glad to be able to talk to you all at the beginning of hashtag SD Live tonight. Also quoted was, and this is from Triple H, at WWE's primary concern is the health and wellness of our performers. I'm sure it was a long 2 years for at WWE Daniel Bryan, but glad he could make a healthy return to doing what he loves, performing for the hashtag WWE universe, and in the ring, hashtag yes, yes, yes. I didn't even know that was a hashtag, but anyway. Now, there was no comments actually from the Bella Twins, which surprised me. At the Bella Twins, only thing they did was retweet, because they made a big point during the segment that Brie Bella had said, look, you got to fight for your dream and all that stuff. And no comments from them at all. I was really surprised. Now, actually, my tweet of the week was none of those. It was actually from the Nova Pro guy who does the video recording. He's at a brick in the SAS. And his quote was, so we'll tank the show in the name of a long-form performance piece based around Daniel Bryan's return to the ring. And I really like that. That resonated with me recently, because I haven't been very positive about SmackDown. I haven't enjoyed it at all. But if it comes to this point where Daniel Bryan's back and suddenly the whole show picks up as much as it did this week, then yeah, it definitely looks like they were making it look bad to suddenly make it look good. In our 6th match, we look at NXT. So, Mason, last time we just did 1 moment from this, and it's a shorter show, so it's not always easy to get 3. I think you said you had 2 moments from this, right?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to tell us what your 2nd moment was then?
Was when Pete Dunne tags with Roderick Strong, and they win.
Yeah. Now, what happened, though, to lead to that was Tyler Bate was injured. He couldn't make it in as a match. That was Roderick Strong's partner, so they said they were going to find a replacement for that. And I was like, it's going to be somebody I don't know. We don't really watch NXT very much, but I'm enjoying what I've seen so far. And yeah, Pete Dunne comes out, and we really enjoyed that match. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago against Adam Cole?
That was 2 weeks ago, I think.
I'm not sure, but we've certainly seen Pete Dunne a few times. And him being British as well, I always like to root for the British guys as well. The Bruiserweight.
And the thing is, in England, the final match was Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate for the championship.
It was, and
So-
I was kind of surprised by that, because I was like, I thought they were supposed to be enemies and rivals, and he's helping out Tyler Bate? Or is he just doing it to promote his own career? Like, hey, if I win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Championship, then I don't know. I'm not sure which side of that you fall.
I'm calling it right now. So Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong are going to get it to the finals with Authors of Pain, probably.
Yeah.
And Tyler Bate's going to come out, beat down Pete Dunne. Then it's going to be Roderick Strong and Tyler Bate, and they're going to win. And then Pete Dunne's going to be mad because William Regal's going to say Tyler Bate came in the last match, and he was supposed to be originally that.
Yeah.
And they're going to take it from there. It's going to be, yeah.
I like that. Now, I don't actually know what Tyler Bates' injury is, but NXT Riders, I think that would be a great little promo there for us. But, yeah. All right, number one moment then for you.
Number one moment was when Tommaso was ripping signs, and then he ripped Johnny's, then Tony attacked Tommaso.
Yeah, and I thought that was, this was right at the start of the show as well. And I actually did come up with 3 moments, so I'm going to do my 3, and then I'm going to get to that number one moment, because I definitely have stuff I want to add to that one. So my third moment was Pete Dunne coming in for Tyler Bate. I thought that was really good. My second one was the match right at the end. Adam Cole versus, who we just talked about a second ago, versus Cassius Ohno. Now, I've seen Cassius Ohno a few times, and my thought of him before was just like, he's a big, strong guy.
Yes.
What I didn't notice before was, that guy's athletic.
Yes.
His moves for a big guy, he was doing all sorts of little tricks. Now, before we do our number one moment, we do have the cat that's come to join us for the podcast, and Mason said this week we should just leave it if it's good enough for Sam Roberts on his podcast. I think his dog, is it?
Yes, his dog.
Yeah, his dog interrupts, so if you hear some scratching, we're just going to leave it in. I say he's got a top 50 rated podcast, so perhaps that's the key to it.
That was his dog, Squeaky Toy.
Squeaky Toy. Yeah, she just did some scratching a second ago, but we're going to leave that in, I think. And the number one moment, as we talked about earlier, Tommaso Ciampa getting into the ring and then meeting Johnny Gargano. Now, this was the third week that we'd watched it. Now, the first week, he just got into the ring, didn't even say anything, because everyone was just booing them, they're holding their signs up, and we're like, what's going on here? And then it was a long time. It felt like 2 or 3 minutes. And then last week, same thing, and you were like, is he going to speak this week? No, didn't say anything again, he got booed. We did hear the Johnny wrestling thing. The commentators referenced Johnny Gargano. So we managed to piece together it was something to do with that. We didn't know exactly what. And then this week, he got in the ring, and same thing, boos of that. And then he spoke.
Yes.
He's gone. Gone. Newsflash. He's not walking down that darn aisle. He's gone. And I paraphrased a little bit there. And then there was a big pause. There's chants, and he drops the mic. And that was all he said. But like you said, he went around ripping up all the signs, and the last one was Johnny Gargano, and you already talked about that part. So I actually researched the whole story, because I wanted to know what's been going on. Why is this such a big deal? Because you could tell the NXT fans were passionate about it. So this is the deal. It starts off with their NXT Tag Team Champions.
Oh.
So they were good friends, and they fought at TakeOver Chicago against the Authors of Pain, who you mentioned a second ago, and they actually lost.
Yes.
Great match, though, from what I saw. However, after the match, as they're both walking up the ramp to exit, that's when he turned on Johnny Gargano. Threw him into the stage, did a dive off the stage, put him through a table, hit him, a whole lot of things going on. So that was the first one. Now, actually, in that match, this was actually May last year. This is May 2017. And during that match, apparently, Tommaso Ciampa actually got injured.
Oh.
Tore an ACL, kind of a serious injury, so he wasn't expected to be back for months. We're now moving on to, I think this is January, NXT Philadelphia TakeOver. Johnny Gargano was fighting for the championship, and he lost, but after the match, Ciampa came out and he hit him with his crutch. So that sort of started it all up again. And I think it's the week before we started watching. This was on the 21st of February. There was one more match, and he was fighting Almas again for the championship. And I think it's the 4th time he actually lost. Oh. Now, the reason he lost was there was a move that happened. The champion took out the ref by accident. Gargano managed to get Almas to tap, but the ref didn't see it because he was knocked out. And then after that, he came in, hit him with his crutch again, which allowed Almas to pin Johnny Gargano. So he actually cost him that match. The 3rd match, it sounds like he just lost. But the 4th match, he lost because he got hit with the crutch. Now, the part that we also missed was, and I'm not sure because I couldn't quite piece this all together, was I think that was if he lost, he had to leave NXT. Oh. That's what it looks like. So I know he had to sign a contract saying that he had to leave NXT. And that's why the security came in so quickly, because he wasn't allowed to be there. He's not part of NXT anymore. Now, the thing that was interesting for me, though, Shane got absolutely beat up last week.
Yes.
And also on this week, Daniel Bryan, absolutely beat up by people who weren't supposed to be there because they'd been fired. And where was security? And Roman Reigns as well. And they had no security, but they had those the Texas Rangers marshals came down as well. And then in NXT, Johnny Gargano barely got a hit on him, and he's suddenly got 3 security guards around him. So here's my. I know they're going to do a shake-up soon of the rosters. The security guards in NXT need to be moved up to SmackDown and Raw, because those guys do not mess around. They dealt with that so quickly. But yeah, NXT, which is supposed to be like the feeder system, they were there instantly, and they said, you could tell, let them fight.
Yes.
That was what they said. So anyway, that was my number one moment, and I really liked NXT. I'm really excited by watching it. I did manage to find 3 moments easily within that hour, and I probably could have found some more too. In our 7th match, if you've made it this far and you're enjoying podcasts, you probably need something else to listen to. So, podcast of the week. Mason, we already talked about this ahead of time because I sometimes have one, sometimes you have one. We actually agree on the same one this week. So, do you want to go ahead and tell us what our podcast of the week is?
Our podcast of the week is Sam Roberts' podcast, episode 176. He interviews Luke Harper, and it's about his movie Mohawk. I thought it was really interesting. And one of the things Luke Harper said was, there was a scene where they were running up the hill, and they kept messing up. After the second time he said redo it again, Luke Harper started yelling down the hill, no. And then the director said, okay, let's call it a day. And then after he said, I thought I actually you off. And then, he said, no, I was just mad we had to do that again. And then he said the actors were thankful that he just called it a day.
And I thought it was, I know we talked about how we really like the Bludgeon Brothers, and I specifically like Luke Harper probably more than I like Eric Rowan.
Yes.
So it was interesting to see a little bit more behind the character, and I thought Sam Roberts did a good job of doing that. But yeah, I didn't know anything about the movie at all, so I thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, definitely go check out that one, Sam Roberts' podcast on Luke Harper. We are available on Twitter at Mgb Wrestling Pod. I specifically am available on Twitter at Mr. Bagshaw. You can email us at mgbwrestlingpod@gmail.com. And you can subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, Mgb Wrestling Podcast.
It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.